Let's cut across to our panelists this evening. Sanjay Jha, political analyst; Sanjeev Unyal, political analyst; Raj Punj, Shiv Sena leader; Clyde Crasto, spokesperson NCP; Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate; Rajdeep Sardesai, consulting editor. Mr. Sardesai joins us on his holiday. Rajdeep, let me begin with you. We are waiting for Mr. PDT Achari to join us. But what do you see now happening, especially where Uddhav Thackeray is concerned? You know, yesterday morning, Sanjay Raut says, "Agar satta chhodni hai, satta chhodenge, party sabse badi hai." This evening, he says that they are ready to leave the Mahavikas Aghadi if the rebels come back and tell them to do so.
No, look, I think you must take the statements of Sanjay Raut on this issue with a bucket full of salt. They are part of the game of political brinkmanship, a game of cat and mouse that is now being played. The Thackeray camp wants these MLAs to return to Mumbai because they believe that their best hope in a way breaking this rebellion is only when they meet these MLAs face to face, confront them possibly with the rank and file and with possibly the power that the Sena still wields in parts of Mumbai, which is why he is making it very clear we are ready to leave the MVA provided you first come to Mumbai and speak to us. On the other hand, Eknath Shinde's camp believes they have the momentum with them, so therefore they are daring Uddhav Thackeray to first quit the MVA and then they are ready for a discussion. Look, all of this is shadow boxing. At the end of the day, please understand a couple of things. One, the numbers, Preeti, are clearly with the Eknath Shinde camp. If anything, they have swelled over the last 24 hours. So the emotional appeal of Uddhav Thackeray has not worked as of now. Number two, please appreciate that while all these videos are coming from Guwahati, the real puppeteer, the choreographer of this is in Mumbai in Devendra Fadnavis and few of his aides. They are the directors.
Rajdeep, Devendra Fadnavis now clearly smelling victory is in Delhi this evening.
That's right. They are the ones. But so far, remember, he has not spoken a word because he does not want a repeat of November 2019 when in his haste he went and tied up with Ajit Pawar and the government lasted for a week. Now Devendra Fadnavis has been playing this very carefully, step by step. Some of his key aides are there in Guwahati managing this operation. Eknath Shinde is the face of the rebellion. But the strings are being pulled by the BJP. And I can tell you that within the Shiv Sena, there are 2 or 3 clear camps. About 15 MLAs, 15 are with Uddhav Thackeray as of now, mainly from Mumbai. There are another 15 firmly with Eknath Shinde, I would say up to 20 now. And there are a balanced 20 who include people who are close to Uddhav but also have cases against them. The likes of Pratap Sarnaik or Gulab Rao Patil, what are they worried about? The ED will come knocking on their door. The fear of the ED is also there. The fear also in some rural Shiv Sena MLAs that in the next election, how will they be able to fight with this MVA alliance when their primary opponent in their area, especially in Western Maharashtra, is the NCP? So there are practical realities. So given this picture, Preeti, Eknath Shinde has the momentum. Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar in a way have only one thing going for them. They are still in power in Maharashtra. The deputy speaker is of the NCP. He can possibly disqualify some of those rebels. He can perhaps delay taking the floor test, although my information is that the governor will step in and ask for a floor test to be taken within a week once the BJP and the Shinde camp come out in the open and claim that the Uddhav Thackeray government has lost majority. So I think what you are seeing at the moment is just edging towards the final climax. Unless there is some last minute twist, Preeti, I don't really see at the moment Uddhav Thackeray's government surviving.
You know, Rajdeep, stay on with us. I'm going to quickly take Clyde Crasto. He has to leave by 9:30. Mr. Crasto, the fact is, we heard Sharad Pawar a short while back. He says they're ready to go in for a floor test where the Mahavikas Aghadi is concerned. But don't you think that Eknath Shinde, with the support of the BJP, is going to push for that floor test before you?
Well, so be it. Fair enough. That's what we are talking about. We are talking about the floor test. If they have the numbers, they can go ahead and prove it. That's what we are waiting for, because see, what we've been seeing in the last couple of days is numbers being thrown up. Some days he's claiming he's got the numbers, some days he's saying that, I'm going to get the numbers, and now he says 47, 30, whatever, the numbers keep going. So the fact is, at the end of the day, like we've all been talking about this, you have to prove it on the floor of the House of the Assembly. So why don't they come ahead and prove it? And then we have to go by what the Constitution says, that whoever is in majority can form the government, whoever does not have the majority loses. So let's go for it. Let's do it that way. We cannot keep talking and playing mind games like this. If they have the numbers, so be it.
So you doubt, Mr. Crasto, like Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who joined us a short while back, that it's a peculiar case because if Eknath Shinde had the numbers, he would have gone in for the kill already.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the point. That's the point. If he had the numbers and if he's flaunting those pictures and images and everything, see what Mr. Thackeray also said yesterday was, if you want me to resign, come here, talk to me, tell me and take my letter. Today, Sanjay Rautji also said, come to Bombay, sit face to face, talk to me, talk to us, and if we think that it's worthy of us leaving the government, we will do it. But the fact of the matter is, they're not doing so. You have to remember one thing very important here, Preeti, that Eknath Shinde is not just any other MLA or a minister of the Shiv Sena. He was someone who was in close proximity of the chief minister. He is a very senior leader of the Shiv Sena. And if he's going to complain about whatever was happening, he should have sat with Mr. Thackeray and sorted this problem out, because he has been the man Friday for a lot of things. He has gone and solved a lot of issues. So if that was the case, and if the other MLAs were talking to him and telling him they have a problem, it was his moral duty and duty as a party leader to say it and speak to the chief minister. Why did he not do so? So there are a lot of things that we can talk about. But the fact is, if he has the numbers, he should prove it. And only then can we talk further.
Well, the Shiv Sena in return is now demanding disqualification of 12 MLAs. That's the news break that's coming in. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Clyde Crasto. We know you've got to go. I want to bring in Rajdeep Sardesai once and cut across to PDT Achari, who's going to break down the legality of it all. You know, we've been going on ad nauseum, Rajdeep, in the studio. If you have a question from Mr. Achari, bring it on. But Mr. Achari, if you can hear me, sir, so much has been said in studios, you know, the last word in print when it comes down to those 37 MLAs, that magic figure. Will sheer the strength of numbers be enough to dislodge Uddhav Thackeray is the question, sir.
The magic number, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you now. Much better. Go ahead, sir.
So far as the magic number 37 is concerned, it becomes relevant only when somebody files a petition with the speaker for disqualifying. Because under the anti-defection law, a person can be exempted from disqualification under the anti-defection law if two conditions are fulfilled. One is his original political party merges with another party, and two-thirds of the members, at least two-thirds of the members of the assembly, agree with that decision to merge. These are the two conditions which are required to be fulfilled. Only then they get protection. Otherwise, they don't get protection from disqualification, and they are liable to be disqualified if these conditions are not fulfilled. But you know, recently there was a decision of the Bombay High Court on that Goa case, where the High Court said that even if the members, the assembly members, go and merge, that should be deemed to be the merger of the original political party. Now, although that decision was a very strange kind of decision, but still, suppose that holds the field, and that if that is applied, then also these 37 members of this particular group will have to merge with another party, that is the BJP in this case. Without that, they don't get protection. One thing we must know, that this cannot function as a breakaway group in the assembly, because that is not permitted by the anti-defection law.
Can they claim, sir, that they are the real Shiv Sena? Can today Eknath Shinde write to the speaker and claim, I am the real Shiv Sena, we are two-thirds, we should represent the real Shiv Sena today?
That is not possible, because after all, that question has to be decided by the election commission. Election commission will decide which faction is the real Shiv Sena, and that question cannot be decided by the speaker. We must know that the legislature party is only a part of the political party. It's only a part of the political party. Political party is much bigger than legislative party. After all, they have so many members, and then there are different levels of the political party. So in any case, you know, the political party is much bigger than the legislature party. So the legislature party leader or leader of a faction of the legislature party cannot go and claim that I am the party, so I may be recognized as the leader. That is not the procedure that cannot be done under the present law.
All right, Mr. PDT Achari, Rajiv, if you have another question right now before we let you go, sir, just one question. What are the possible scenarios now, as per you, that could actually legally play out in the state of Maharashtra? What are we looking at?
No, what I feel is, you know, if the Chief Minister feels that he doesn't have the majority, then he may resign. That is one possibility. In that case, naturally the governor will appoint somebody else as the Chief Minister. He can make the leader of the opposition as the Chief Minister and all that. You know, those possibilities are there if the Chief Minister resigns. Otherwise, the governor can ask the Chief Minister to convene, to hold a floor test the House and prove his majority. That is what normally happens in such cases. So in that case, suppose these members, these 37 members or 40 members or whatever number they have, if they vote against the party, their own party, because naturally Shiv Sena is the party to which all these people belong, and therefore Shiv Sena is well within its right to issue whip to all these members, all the 55 members of the Shiv Sena, and they are bound to obey the whip.
Right.
If they defy it, then that becomes a ground for disqualifying. But then, if the government resigns or if the government goes, is voted out, then there will be a totally different kind of political scenario. Another Chief Minister will come, another party will form a government, and then there will be another speaker. And if the petition goes to them, goes to that speaker to disqualify these people who have voted against their party, then of course it is anybody's guess what will happen. Then they can go to the Supreme Court and all that. You know, it's a very prolonged kind of fight.
It's a prolonged battle. Rajdeep, do you have a question, or shall we let Mr. PDT Achari go?
No, we can let him go. But you see, that is what is the game which is being played here, Preeti. Please appreciate. I think Sharad Pawar and Uddhav Thackeray are buying time. Particularly today, it was clear from Mr. Pawar. He is hoping that the longer this drags on, some element of coercion or some element of an emotional pressure can be put on the Shiv Sena MLAs. But my sense, Preeti, at the moment is, given the way this has been planned, I am told this was planned months ago. This is being planned to the T, and it was aimed to catch both the Sena and NCP by surprise. And therefore, now to expect that in the last stage, Mr. Fadnavis will fail in this attempt seems unlikely. Lightning is unlikely to strike twice. Remember, he lost out in November. He's been smart at 2019. He's been smarting since. He has planned this, choreographed this, and that is why I find it very difficult to believe that he will now fail in this last stage unless Mr. Pawar has some other ace up his sleeve.
Right, all right. Rajdeep, stay on with me. Mr. PDT Achari, sir, thank you so much for taking some time out for us this evening and explaining it to our viewers, because there's so much, you know, that is being said in studios, which, as what you heard Mr. PDT Achari said, not generally correct. There's a role that the Deputy Speaker will play, the Governor will play, and importantly, that the Election Commission will play as well. As Rajdeep stays on with us, I want to quickly appreciate the patience of our other panelist. Raj Punj from the Shiv Sena is there. Mr. Punj, I want to ask you one question. There's news breaking right now that action would be taken against 12 MLAs. Disqualification would be mooted by the Shiv Sena, while more MLAs are now coming into Guwahati. We're going to try and get an understanding whether they are from the Shiv Sena or from where, but these are visuals that are coming in. We're going to get an understanding where they're coming from. But Mr. Punj, why action only against 12 MLAs? Because in attendance were only 16 MLAs in the meeting that was called.
प्रीति जी, देखिए सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि अगर कोई भी ऊपर जो हमारे हायर वो हैं, ऊपर बैठे हैं, शीर्ष नेतृत्व जो बैठा है, वो डेफिनेटली जो भी एक्शन होगा, जो भी इस प्रकार से जो गतिविधि पाई जाएगी, जो भी इसके ऊपर पाया जाएगा, उस पर एक्शन जरूर होगा और होना भी चाहिए। अब दूसरी बात यह है कि इस समय एवरीवन हैज देयर ओन
12 एमएलए पे क्यों हो रहा है? क्योंकि अटेंड तो बहुतों ने नहीं किया था ना, 30 के ऊपर एमएलए थे जिन्होंने नहीं अटेंड किया था। आप सिर्फ 12 पे एक्शन ले रहे हैं, ऐसा क्यों?
देखिए, अब
ये 12 वो एमएलएज हैं जो एकनाथ शिंदे कैंप से हैं, जो राजदीप बोल रहे थे।
नहीं, हाँ बिल्कुल राजदीप जी कह रहे थे, लेकिन मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि देखिए जो भी किसी कैंप से था या जो भी था, सब शिव सैनिक है, सब हमारे परिवार के हैं, ठीक है। आपस में मन मुताबिक देयर सो मेनी एग्जम्पशंस राइट आउट इन द फील्ड, तो आप देख रहे हैं कि बहुत सारी चीजें इसमें चल रही हैं और अपनी हर किसी की एग्जाम्पशन है जो भी लगा रहा है। लेकिन गुवाहाटी के अंदर मैं बहुत ही उसमें मेरे को लग रहा है कि वहाँ पे इतना ज्यादा हेमंत बिश्व शर्मा जो इस समय ध्यान नहीं दे रहे कि वहाँ पर जो इस समय वहाँ पे बाढ़ आई है उसके ऊपर ध्यान नहीं दिया जा रहा। लेकिन वहाँ पर जो उनको इस समय वो हो रहा है कि जहाँ पे इस समय MLA बैठे उस जगह को कितना प्रोक्योर किया जाए, उस जगह को कितना तैयार किया जाए, वहाँ से PMC को
सर बात तो ये है, बट सर बात तो ये है जैसे अभी आप बोल रहे हैं ना, वहाँ पर और MLAs अंदर आ रहे हैं।
नहीं देखिए, अंदर आ रहे हैं पीटी जी या बाहर जा रहे हैं, वो सब हमारे परिवार के हैं। आज घंटों में नहीं तो दिनों में वापस जरूर आएंगे और डेफिनेटली आएंगे और इसमें आना ही है, क्योंकि शिव सैनिक वो भी शिव सैनिक है और हम भी शिव सैनिक है। हम भी 56 सालों से फॉर द लास्ट 56 ईयर्स हम भी उसका परचम लेके घूम रहे हैं, हम भी झंडा लेके घूम रहे हैं और वो भी घूम रहे हैं। तो इसमें कोई डेफिनेटली वो और हम अलग अलग तो है नहीं, एक ही परिवार के हो सकते हैं आपस में।
Sanjeev Unial भी है हमारे साथ, भी have Sanjeev Unial, political analyst. He's also joining us. Mr. Unial, do you think, Mr. Unial, at this point of time, we've explored many legal options. We'll also bring in Sanjay Hegde. Rajdeep is with us. So is Sanjay. I apologize to all of you. I know it's taking a bit of time. Lots of breaking news coming in and other legal experts. But Mr. Unial, do you think now, what is the reason? You know, which even Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi had a point. If Eknath Shinde had the prerequisite numbers, why isn't he going in, moving in for the kill? Why wait?
Preeti, one thing is, I entirely a different point of view, first of all. I am not agree what Sardesai was saying. This is very loud and clear. Now, the Hindutva is the main agenda, is the epicenter of complete episode. One should not forget. Why it happened, whatsoever Bala Sahab used to say has not been followed by his son, particularly his family, Uddhav Thackeray. Now has been adopted clearly by Shinde. So that's why he has taken an edge and he has raised his voice. He is having a height of towering structure, because that's why 40 people, 40 MLAs are with him right now.
Right.
And you see, he has gone to Matrishri from the CM house. So it speaks volume about the stability, the strongness of a person who has taken this initiative. And second thing, factually I want to say, if 40 people are there, anti-defection law cannot apply at all.
So Mr. Unial, you are saying that the core issue of this is Hindutva. The core issue you are saying of this is Hindutva. We'll come right back to you, sir, because more MLAs are coming in. My colleague Polumi is joining us with the names of these MLAs. Polumi, who's come in right now inside the gates of that hotel in Guwahati.
Right, Preeti, two MLAs have now entered the premises of the Radisson Hotel in Guwahati. These include Dadaji Bhuse and Sanjay Rathod. These are the two MLAs who have entered the Radisson Hotel. And very, very interestingly, one Shiv Sena MLC, these are both of these are Shiv Sena MLAs, and one Shiv Sena MLC, Ravindra Phatak, has also gone in. He's a member of the Legislative Council. But what is interesting about Ravindra Phatak is that he was one of the two emissaries that were sent by Uddhav Thackeray 2 days ago to the hotel in Surat, the Lee Meridian Hotel in Surat, to convince Eknath Shinde and the rebel camp to give up their rebellion and come back to Mumbai. So the MLC, who was sent as an emissary by Uddhav Thackeray, is now sitting with Eknath Shinde in a Guwahati hotel. So he switched camps quite clearly over there, because that seems to be the reason he's travelled from Surat on a chartered flight with these two MLAs, which takes the tally of the Shiv Sena officially now to the mark that Eknath Shinde wanted to reach. 37 is the number right now.
Well, 37 is the number right now. Sanjay Hegde, legally they have the numbers now with these two MLAs coming in. We'll bring in Rajdeep Sardesai into this conversation. Do you think now would be a time when Eknath Shinde will go to the Deputy Speaker asking for a floor test?
He doesn't need to go to the Deputy Speaker asking for a floor test. I do anticipate that as and when the numbers are in place, there will first be a parading in the Raj Bhavan, and there will possibly the game ultimately will move to the assembly. There will be an assembly session, and it is also a possibility that even if the numbers are not there with Uddhav Thackeray, he might still insist on a floor test. There will be all those speeches. if people may take inspiration from what happened to Atal Bihari Vajpayee in the 13-day government, or Mr. Deve Gowda. So there is a political game in the longer term also to be fought. These are various things that can happen on the political side. On the legal side, things can go wrong only if either of the referees starts playing in the game himself. That is, either the governor says, starts counting heads and dismisses the government or something of that kind, or if the deputy speaker starts a process of disqualification and does that selectively. I heard you asking some of the other panelists why only 12. Mm-hmm. This is a phrase of evolving jurisprudence on the 10th schedule. I remember a long time ago when there was a similar crisis in Uttar Pradesh. Some MLAs came over at one point of time, another set of MLAs came at another point of time, and the then speaker, Mr. Kesrinath Tripathi, who was a senior advocate himself, evolved a theory of a continuing split, that a split doesn't have to take place at once. Here also, whether there is a merger with another party or whether only some people have split from the legislative party, though 50 odd people may have gone to Guwahati. At the floor test, if those 50 do not vote for the Shinde Sena and stick with the Shiv Sena, then there will be different consequences.
You know, Sanjay Hegde, I want to also ask you, as I bring in Sanjay Jha and Rajdeep Sardesai. Rajdeep, there has been instances in the past where the governor of his own volition has called for a floor test. It happened in Madhya Pradesh, where Kamal Nath and that entire Jyotir Aditya Scindia episode, where Kamal Nath asked for the dissolution of the house, but the governor decided to hold a floor test on his own volition.
It's happened in Madhya Pradesh. It happened also more recently in Karnataka. So yes, it's very settled principle now that you have to prove your majority on the floor of the house. The role of the arbitrariness that existed sometimes, particularly with speakers, is now considerably reduced because of court judgments. And therefore, eventually, if Uddhav Thackeray doesn't have the majority, he will have to resign on the floor of the house and perhaps give an emotional speech, one final speech on the floor of the house. Look, I come back to it. Why is it now that Sharad Pawar is reiterating floor of the house? Because they want the MLAs to come back from Guwahati to Mumbai. It is one thing to be in Guwahati, it is another thing to be in Mumbai. However, I think that they have misread the situation, because the sense one is getting is the number of these MLAs have already struck their deal with the BJP. Eknath Shinde has already revealed it. Without naming the BJP, he has clearly said that the BJP is very much involved in this operation, is calling it historic. You see, it's very interesting that unlike November 2019, where the BJP played its cards too early, this time the BJP wants to play the ace only in the final stretch. Devendra Fadnavis, I am told, has been cautioned, don't make your move till all the pieces are fitted. Now that they've touched 37, I think you will see in the next 24 hours, Eknath Shinde asking the governor, possibly with Devendra Fadnavis as well, to please call for to suggest that the Uddhav Thackeray government has lost its majority and they are ready for a floor test. So I think that 37 number was what they were waiting for. Now that they've got it, they will move for the kill. So I expect them to move for the kill in the next 24 to 48 hours and maybe a floor test sometime next week.
Sanjay Jha, appreciate the patience. Sorry coming to you this late, but you've always maintained the numbers are, even if the numbers are there, they will not be enough. Why do you say that, Mr. Jha?
Well, Preeti, first and foremost, the reason why they are not in Surat and why they were transported in the middle of the night by a chartered flight to Guwahati of all places, far away in the northeast, is simply because the idea was to limit the access or the proximity of Uddhav Thackeray and his team with the rebels. Simple. And now, why would you be worried? Why are you apprehensive? Because despite all the number of MLAs out there, they know that eventually no one there is cast in iron. People can make a decision and they can shift over maybe seconds. It's possible that even in the floor of the house, if they are transported on the day of the voting, they might actually vote for the other side when it comes to the actual decision on the floor of the House. So it is very difficult to predict with any certitude as to which way will they go. That is the only reason why, despite claiming 37, 38, 40, you are seeing that they are not able to come to Mumbai to do a floor test. But the bigger question that I think you need to anticipate, assuming hypothetically that the 37 number is breached and therefore technically there is no anti-defection, what is the deal that Eknath Shinde is going to give to the Shiv Sena? At the moment, you have a chief minister of the Shiv Sena and Uddhav Thackeray, who would have continued for the entire 5-year tenure. Do you think Devendra Fadnavis is going to be a deputy chief minister with Eknath Shinde as the chief minister? That is not happening. In which case, Eknath Shinde is basically will have to accept that the chief minister will be a BJP chief minister. He'll have vertically split the Shiv Sena, humiliated a member of the Thackeray family who are seen as a personification of the Shiv Sena, and then ended up actually taking a secondary position. Will that really gladden the hearts of the Shiv Sena workers? I'm not so sure.
Well, Mr. Rajiv, you want to come in? Mr. Unyal wanted to finish his point, and then I'll just come back to you. Yes, Rajiv, go ahead.
No, with one caveat, Mr. Jha, the fact is, please appreciate, if the BJP government is in power in Maharashtra and Eknath Shinde is deputy chief minister, the shadow of the agencies, the central agency's shadow, will no longer haunt many of the Shiv Sainiks who today have to appear. Even as we speak, Anil Parab, close aide of Uddhav Thackeray, is appearing before the ED. Number two, there's a BMC election in 3 months from now, where the BJP is determined to cut the Thackeray's down to size. Look, there is a proxy war going on here between Uddhav Thackeray and Devendra Fadnavis. There's been so much of talk that, the Shiv Sena could actually go back to the BJP. What's the impediment? The impediment is, can Uddhav Thackeray and Devendra Fadnavis really work together? Is that really possible? Because it matters, but there is an individual battle also going on here. It's not just between parties. And the fact is that the BJP, being with the BJP, gives you a certain immunity. Let's be clear. Whoever has switched over has got immunity, whether it's in Karnataka.
Right. But
no,
Rajdeep, stay. Okay, wait. Mr. Jha, can I hold? I'll give you more. I'll give you more to answer to, because Mr. Unyal had also posed that question. Mr. Unyal, you wanted to complete what you said. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course. I apologize. I had cut you short at that time.
Yeah,
but you say it's all about Hindutva. But the fact that even Mr. Sanjay Jha said. But Mr. Unyal. Okay. Yeah. Finish. You finish. I'll pose my question later. Finish.
Riti, let it be very, very clear to your viewers who are looking into viewing your program in a large number. It is an ideological issue. That's why Hindutva was on the top, and that's why Shinde has not accepted the offer of Uddhav Thackeray and Sanjay Rao to become a chief minister. But that's why, because he was not interested. He was interested in ideology of Hindutva only. That is the basic question. That is the basic answer. That is the epicenter of every problem right now.
All right. Okay. Well, the viewers are actually not mine. They are Rajdeep's viewers. But he's sitting all the way on a holiday. But the story's caught him there. But Rajdeep, I'll bring you into this conversation, because Mr. Unyal is saying that it's all about Hindutva, where Mr. Shinde is going to be okay to sit in the chair of deputy CM. Do you think it's as simple as that?
No, there is that element. Look, this was an unnatural alliance, the Shiv Sena coming together with the NCP and Congress. There were practical realities because, as I said, they are in opposition in some parts of Maharashtra, but Hindutva is the factor. There is no doubt in my mind. I'm not trying to minimize that. The Hindutva that the Shiv Sena represents can never be fully reconciled by being part of the so-called MVA alliance. And in a way, this alliance was going to break up sooner rather than later. It was a question of timing. I believe the timing has been prompted by the BMC elections. That is the real cash cow. And after the Rajya Sabha MLC victory, the rebels scented blood. But yes, Hindutva is a factor, but let's also not minimize the role of greed and immunity from the law. There are a dozen MLAs today
and immunity
who are
for the law. Sanjay Jha, you wanted to make a comment.
Enforcement cases against them. That's the reality as well. Are they all going to now be immune?
Okay, Sanjay Jha, you wanted to make a comment. I'm sorry I came in at that time. Go ahead, sir.
No, Preeti, let me tell you, Hindutva is a very solid pretext to justify a BJP-engineered revolt, because it suits the BJP's narrative as well, right? To say that the BJP is the true custodian of Hindutva, and these people in the Shiv Sena actually value it so much that they are willing to break the party. please do not ignore the political significance of this narrative. And the second point, Rajdeep, this is the only part where I don't completely agree with what you said. Ultimately, in 2 years, they will have to go and face the elections again. And if I know politicians who have to fight elections, they are paranoid about going back to voters who may feel disillusioned with them or who feel that they actually let their own constituency down.
Well, it happened in Karnataka. It did happen in Karnataka. Many of those who fought the re-elections did not quite make it. But Rajdeep,
but Sanjay Jha, the fact is that the Shiv Sena MLAs from Western Maharashtra, their main opponent is the NCP. How can they go into an election with an MVA? This MVA alliance, like it or not, was an unnatural alliance. You have to accept it. Their bases are not this. Their social bases are very different in some parts of the. Having said that, all I will say is that in politics, anything can happen tomorrow.
Right.
So therefore, I
so
am not ruling out a last
right,
minute
Rajdeep,
twist,
let's
but it
focus
seems
right
unlikely.
Now.
That's
Rajdeep,
why
let's
MLC
focus on what will
elections,
happen
you see the
tonight.
outcome also.
Anything
5
can happen
BJP
tomorrow.
has 1 out
Yes,
of 10.
Mr. Unyal. Anything can happen tomorrow, but what will happen tonight? Sanjay Hegde, thank you for the patience bringing you back in. Sir, now, if the numbers are there, and if Eknath Shinde approaches the governor now for a parade, for a floor test, what do you see, Onsu, legally speaking?
Well, Mr. Shinde doesn't have any locus to approach the governor unless he is taking claim on his own behalf. So it is more likely that Mr. Fadnavis will approach the governor along with Mr. Shinde and all the MLAs, saying that we have lost faith in the, we have decided not to support Mr. Thackeray, and please call for a floor test. So then the governor could possibly direct them to a floor test, and then of course whatever happens in the floor test. But unless Mr. Shinde is backed by the BJP to become chief minister himself, there's no question of him going to the governor.
All right, well, gentlemen, appreciate you all for taking out the time and joining us this evening. I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to leave it at the point where the latest coming in is, it seems Eknath Shinde now has the numbers down pat. 37. What's he going to do? 24 hours. Is Eknath Shinde, along with the Bharatiya Janata Party, going for that final kill? Trust India Today to get you the ringside view and the front row seats to this political thriller.